our show, which is curated from our collection. We're a digital museum with a physical archive based in Mumbai. And as part of the exhibition and programming around it, Mayur has kindly come and kind of is doing a great installation for us. Just a little bit about Mayur. Mayur and Tushar Vayeda are artists from the Warli community, which is a community in Maharashtra, but also beyond that. Works with agriculture, fishing communities, but also has a very, very rich tradition of art. And both Mayur and Tushar are really well-known, popular artists now, upcoming artists at the India Art Fair, artists in residence at the India Art Fair. They both done this fabulous mural at Lodi Art District. If you haven't seen it, please go, catch it. And so we're very, very excited and honored that Mayur is here to take us through two of his artworks that are in the show, as well as take us through an installation that he's done specially as an extension of the show. Just to give you a quick, if you haven't taken a look at the exhibition looks at themes of ecology, sustainability, and how art, through the lens of 20 artists, we look at ideas of ecology, the climate crisis that we're already in, as well as what lies ahead, in the future in terms of hope, ideas of renewal, again through the lens of artists. So I won't take too much time, but hand over to Mayur.
Thank you so much. That's a lot in introduction. So hello, my name is Mayur Vayeda. So basically, Tushar is my elder brother. We paint together, and we always paint together every single canvas that we make. And it's been more than a decade we started painting, and we started as a career, as a kind of income source. Being an artist today, what we are doing is like playing a really important role for the upcoming generation of Warli tribe. So now it becomes a responsibility that what we are painting and what kind of knowledge that we are gathering from our ancestors, our parents, and all the villages that we have. And we are trying to pass all that knowledge and trying to archive all this information in our art forms and our art practice. So mainly in Warli painting, you have seen the paintings, but it's just a small part of Warli tribal community. We have our different culture, we have our beliefs, and we have different rituals and different prayers throughout the year. And one of that is called Khada, and Khada is kind of the celebration after harvest. So this is something we really wanted to show, like Warli painting is not just a decorative thing, but it's more about the emotions and the lifestyle of Warli people that they experience and they live with it. So if you have seen the paintings and the compositions, but if you look at more into the detail, you will find that which plant is painted where, on the river, which plant grows, on the mountains, which kind of plants are there, which birds lays the eggs on which plant. So that kind of detail you will find, and that kind of understanding, that kind of information you can find in the Warli paintings if you have a detailed look at it. So this is called Khada. Khada is one of the really important ritual in Warli tribal community. It's something like celebration, but also kind of thanksgiving for all the spirits, gods, goddess, and everything that we believe, because we worship nature and all our spirits and ancestral gods, goddesses are coming from the nature. So we always worship and always try to say thank to all the spirits who help us for getting all the seeds, grains, and the food from the nature. So we are really connected and very close to the nature from very long time. And luckily, with the education I had experience to live with my community, I born and brought up in Warli tribal community. So luckily, I went through all these rituals and processes that are helping me to grow as an artist. So this festival it's not festival, but this ritual is kind of gathering for the all family and all the villages, but nowadays the village becomes small, and the family becomes smaller and smaller. So it's now very limited within the family. So always all family gather, but whenever we paint or in our childhood we had these memories, like all the shamans together and do these prayers and worships. They try to invite all these gods and spirits. So we always imagine maybe all these spirits are also joining this ceremony. So this is not just a ceremony of all the family, but it's also gathering of all the spirits that we have. So we always cook something from freshly harvested rice and the grains, and we serve on leaves to all the spirits with every single name. And then we celebrate and we eat all that food with our family.
This was yearly.
It's every year. It's now actually happening in November and December is the harvest season. So basically, it's very small replica or small installation of what we do in a large scale. Like we get a lot of grains from our fields, and it's a huge circle, and we have to do it with 5 or 6 people with the what is called bamboo, not a basket, but kind of tool that we use. Yeah, exactly. So that what we do together, like from right to left and left to right, and when we use the basket, उसमें से जब हम ऊपर से डालते हैं, then it removes the unnecessary stuffs from the seeds and it cleans all the rice. So this is the basic practice that we do, and then we also get the paddy from the field and we make the ash, and we always make boundary for all these activities, kind of to protect from the negative energies or to tie the kansari. So kansari is that mainly, and kansari is one of the really important and very, how can I say, we have very strong belief about the kansari. Kansari is not just a seed. I mean, for the rice grain we call it kansari, but the kansari is not just a seed. It's a goddess of seed, and it's a goddess of all seeds that we have, including all insects, all animals, and every single creature. So she is kind of the mother of all seeds. So we always invite her for this ceremony before we take all these grains inside the house and store it.
In reality also it is ash?
Yes, in reality also is fresh paddy ash.
Ash is from the grain also? Or
No, it's from the paddy, but from the fresh paddy.
the whole plant?
The whole plant.
Mayur, is there any specific person who is appointed to do it, or every family member?
Like from the family member, there's always someone who's elder, and we always have some shamans in the village who do all these activities. Shaman is not like on the voodoo thing, but there are many shamans who know the medicinal information, and there is some ancestral knowledge that they are carrying from very long time. So we have this kind of people to do this ritual. There are many different rituals throughout the year. I mean, first rain is kind of first year for the Warli people, and we start with the first rain, sowing the first seed. Then we get the harvest. Then people go for the work, earn some money, they come back, and then there are wedding seasons. Till the May 31st is the last date for the wedding, because after that monsoon start in the Sayadri ranges, and the new couple start their new life by sowing seed in the field. So if you have seen Warli painting, it's always in white color, and the background is red or like this background. So Warli painting is very minimal, and most of the tribal arts are in very minimal.
Just hold this. Yeah.
So hello. So in Warli painting, we use very basic things and the natural materials from around, and we always use white color. So you have seen painting, so it's always in white color because for the wedding we paint Warli, which is called job. It's kind of temple, and for every season from the freshly harvested rice, we get the rice and make a paste. It's kind of form of kansari or form of goddess, and we invite Palghat Devi. So Palghat Devi is a goddess of fertility. It's for the wedding, who comes for the wedding and give the blessings to the new couple and they start their life. So that's why we always use white color, and we don't play with the white color in Warli always. If you have seen every Warli painter, they are using only white color. But nowadays, Warli painting and most of the tribal art forms are getting very commercialized. On the name of tribal ethnics, people are making so many different things. But as a new generation, we always try to reintroduce that what really Warli is. It's not just an art form or not just a decorative thing, but it's also really important for Warli community. It's really attached to their emotions because we don't just paint these tribal art forms or these figures, but these are also some gods, goddess, or some traditional beliefs in every single form that we paint. So it's really important for us to transfer the right information to outside world that what is Warli and what we should paint outside and what we should not. So for painting also we always use bamboo stick, and the base is always made with the cow dung or the red soil that we get from the field again. So it's the only material that we are using today also as a Warli painting material. But as an artist, I always envy other people and other artists who play with many colors and try to do many different things. So it's always like what we can do something which is already 1,000 years old and already hundreds of artists within the community who are painting Warli art. And when we travel in Delhi, Chennai or Kolkata, we find many Warli artists and who come to us, and we are also Warli artists. So in this with all these traditional materials, with this minimal form and minimal material, you have to create something new. So that was really challenging for us, like me and Tushar, when we started as a painting career. So we always try to get as much as information and try to study our own culture, because now today we are talking about seeds, plants, and we also speak about organic lifestyle and what kind of food we are consuming. So it's really important for us. We always look at the nature as a separate part from us. Like, what do you think about the nature? What do you want to do about the nature? But we really have to understand and realize that we are not separate from the nature. We are nature. So when you start something from your side, then it will change eventually. So that is something we always try to write or paint, or in our practice we always try to get this kind of inspirations from our ancestral knowledge, which can create the bridge between modern life and the tribal life that we are living. So this is something we always try to represent from Warli painting or the Warli storytelling culture. Earlier, Warli painters used to paint one story on one canvas. So for me and Tushar, one canvas was not enough. So we always try to break the stories and try to make different chapters of every single story, so we can really understand and go into these characters and try to explore all these ancestral folk stories that we have. Because if we also think about Ramayana or Mahabharata, so in the Ramayana also, if I know the Ramayana, I am telling her what is Ramayana, so she is telling her Ramayana, then you are telling your Ramayana, so then Ramayana becomes really big and really interesting. So in Warli painting also, like we have these folk stories, and each story have some different and additional characters in another village, in another village, in another village. So we always try to interact with the people who know this kind of information and who have this kind of knowledge. So particularly in this story, it's Kansari. So there are three different goddesses. One is Kansari, one is Dhartari, and one is Gautari. So Dhartari is Mother Earth, and Kansari is the goddess of seeds, and Gautari is all people who are living together in the community and who have the balance with all their cattle, cows, like dogs, cats, and the chickens that we have in the village. So it's kind of the cycle and it's kind of the connection that everyone have with each other. So the Kansari is one goddess from these three goddesses. And there is a really interesting story in the Warli, the creation of the world. And in this story, you will find in many different tribes, in Gond, Patachitra, Madhubani, and also you will find many similarities in different characters of these stories. So basically, Kansari is someone, like now we have currency, but still in some village we have the seed is a medium of exchange things and buying things from each other or exchanging the seeds during the monsoon and during the harvest season. So there are many ancestors or the many spirits that we have were originally some peoples from the village, and we have some stories of these people like as a lesson or as a learning from the community. And Kansari, Dhaltari, and Gavdari played many important roles in everyone's character and everyone's life and everyone's family. So we always try to get the information and the folk story, and we try to merge these stories together and try to draw together. And in this story of the creation, so there was creators Mahadev and Ganga Gauri. Again, it's a very long story. Like there was no earth, and they found this rock, and they start like giving life on this planet. So there are first seeds of the life. The first was the ant, then the red ant, then the snakes, then we call it Sainder. I don't know. I'm not sure what it's called in English. Porcupine, then deer, then mountain cat, then sheep, tiger, dogs, monkeys, elephants. Then there was a seed of forest, and at the last there is a seed of human. So we try to break this single story in different canvas, and this is the one chapter of the creation of the world called concept. And so these were the first seeds, and after that there are so many different creatures born on the planet.
Character has like a four spike thing on his head. Is that what's the?
See, in Warli, you cannot see the eyes, lips, or the nose to express the emotions. But in Warli, particularly the human beings or the animals and all the creatures are like they have something specific when we draw. So when we paint gods or goddess, so they always have the crown on the top. If we paint the shaman, so you can see there is a kind of the choti, yeah. And if there is a ghost or spirit, so it's like more with the open hairs, and so we express this kind of characters. And because it's a storytelling, so we have to be very careful with all these small details when we place all these characters. Because Warli painting, what we have seen, Tushar and I will always try to look at all these elements and all these shapes as a alphabet. And every artist in Warli, they have their own grammar to place all these alphabets and create all the stories. We paint with the bamboo sticks. It's not a brush. And we spent 5 weeks, 1 month, 2 months for every single canvas together. So it's kind of meditative when you are painting something like this for 1 month. And from morning to the evening. So it's really peaceful, and it's really important. The important thing that we have learned from Warli painting is patience. We are very patient when we paint and very calm, and that's why I think we are real brothers and we have that kind of understanding. So it's also keeping that bond with me and my brother. So yeah, that is something that how we practice and how we paint.
Mayur, do you want to tell people about how did you collect the stories, and like did you interview elders in the community or?
See, when monsoon starts, so many people get busy in the fields. But just after 1 month, they don't have a lot of work, and there is a lot of training, so they don't go out. So that's the best timing for me and Tushar to, like, it's kind of treasure hunting and meeting the elders in the village and ask them their experiences, how our village was when they were kids. And in last 15 years, now I'm 30, in last 15 years, I have seen massive development and change in the community. There are different projects are happening around the village, that this bullet train, the national highways, coastal highways, which are cutting the Warli land. And but for them, it's been 50 years or 60 years. So we can travel through their stories in their time. So we always try to explore these kind of stories in monsoon when they are at home. So it's really interesting to sit with them, to listen their stories. And also recently we are working on the disappearing spirits and the gods and goddess, because जब हम छोटे थे, we had this slingshot and we used to walk into the forest and go for the swimming. But nowadays everyone have the smartphones. So we don't. Now there is a gap between that generation and today's generation. So the exchange thing or the knowledge transformation has stopped. So it's really important to sit with them to listen to stories, because when we were kids there was no electricity or no mobiles or no networks. So we had that time. I think our generation was the last who had that kind of bonding with all the ancestors and all the elders in the village. So luckily we many times we get the chance to interact with them, to listen all the stories. So that is the one thing how we explore the stories of Warli.
One question is related to how you paint. So, do you guys decide on what it would look like beforehand? Because you know you need to be in sync. Of course, I'm sure it's a common question. The second question is related to, you were talking about shamans, that they are the ones who do the rituals and all. So in a caste-based societies, it's only Brahmins who get to be the ritual heads. I wanted to understand in tribal communities, like how does it work? Who gets to be a shaman and how are shamans assigned?
So the first question, that how we paint together. So it's a common question,
Yeah.
because like two peoples, how they paint together and come out with the one painting, then that nobody can notice that which part what was painted by Tushar or which part was painted by me. So we know, I mean, Tushar is specifically good in painting some parts, like some details, and I paint some specific parts. But the thing is, मैंने पहले ही बताया कि the environment we have lived and the life we had with the Warli community and what we are living today. So we have seen all these elements. बचपन से बहुत सारी चीज़ें हम लोगों ने देखी है. So we have experienced Warli life. So that one thing can help us to place all the elements together. And it's been 12 years we are painting together. So now we know better each other. So our thought process and the idea generation and how we collect all the information and put it on the canvas. So that is something comes in last 10 years, like how we are painting together. And the second question is shaman. So shaman is it's also again the traditional knowledge. From my family, if someone is shaman or if I'm a shaman, then I will pass my information to the next generation. So that's how we have this traditional process of exchanging the information. But shaman is always not like calling the spirits and having inside the body and doing these things. There are many shamans who have really important information of plants and the seeds, and we have many rituals throughout the year. We have some specific dance to call the rain, to celebrate the first seed on the paddy, and before harvest and during the wedding. So that information, these all informations carry, like they carry all this information, and whenever we have this kind of event, so we have to invite them. And but it's not like always for the shamans, for the widow women and for the other women, we have different things. So there is the equality in Warli community. For the weddings, widow women have only right to sing the wedding songs, and there are other women like Suhasinis who are married, so they have only right to paint chalk. So it's equally divided within the community, all this information. So shaman is carrying more information about these rituals and the medicines. Okay, so this is something new. People call it contemporary Warli painting, but I really don't know the definition of contemporary. But we always think there is a thinking or there is a thought process again on which is contemporary, because as a new generation there are many new elements are coming into the Warli art form. Earlier, like Warli painters lived inside the cave, and the stone was the first canvas. Today, it's completely changed. Now we are going into the cities. When I came out from the village, I was very curious, because when I was in the village, I had very minimal stuff to play with, or there is no television, there are no telephones or no toys. So we used to play a lot with the nature, and the mind was playing with very minimal stuff. And it was really curious to gather many information. But when we came out, like Mumbai was another planet for us, looking at all these tall buildings, and when we start traveling different places around the world, so we always try to gather many information and many different motifs, many different shapes, which can be the part of Warli painting. Because in Warli painting, it's not only about the folk story, but it's also about the daily life, what we are experiencing and what is happening around you. So that is also you can paint in Warli. And in our generation, we are looking at massive development and changes which are very like happening very rapidly and very fast. So we try to get more geometry and like many inspirations. Like there are some specific buildings, there are some specific places we like. So we always try to gather all this information and try to render our stories in today's world. So there are many inspirations from different places. So particularly this painting was painted in lockdown, and like we always think we have to take care of the earth, or we have to like have to be very careful when we are like having all these development thing like cars and all pollution, plastic, these all things are happening around us. But we don't need to take care, we just have to stop ourselves so nature can recover itself. And we thought the corona was something came from the nature to balance the planet, because we have seen some birds were extinct or disappeared from the community, but during the lockdown we started seeing all these different creatures, and also we are hearing different news from around the world. So that kind of impact we were having during the lockdown. And also it called a wave. I never thought when I was in the village that something will come from so far and it will affect the whole community. So now there are so many different waves are happening. It's not just the one wave, but the global warming, and there are many forests are getting like आग लग रही है और बहुत सारी चीज़ें हो रही है. So all these different waves are coming from different sides, and how these waves are affecting our community or any tribal community or every community that we have around. So we try to showcase all these different sceneries and small details. Like you will find these trees are burning, and in the center also they are burning the body, and there are some specific people who are infected and they have like corona and there are masks, and some hospitalized, and there is a social distancing. So you will find like we have never seen Warli people in a mask or having a PPE kit. So these all new elements are also like are now part of Warli painting or other different tribal art forms that we have in India. So that is something we call the wave.
When you're painting something that is a different composition from a traditional Warli painting, how do you know which rules to break? ऐसा नहीं है कि
Yeah, there is always a dilemma when we are painting tribal art or traditional art. So, like the shapes and the motifs are same, but using them is something different that we are doing. We are trying to use same shapes, same motifs, same material, same techniques, but the inspirations we are getting from different places. Like earlier, Warli painters were living in the community only. पहले वो लोग प्लेन देखते थे तो प्लेन पेंट करते वक्त वो पेंट करते थे, तब कोई स्टेरिंग लेके ऊपर बैठा है. बट nowadays Warli painters are traveling in the plane, so now they know the detail what is inside. So we always try to gather this kind of information when we start composing something different from the regular Warli art. So the shapes are same, motifs are same, but just we are trying to give them a new form. And Tushar and my focus was in Warli painting is more about the miniature part of Warli. So there is miniature touch in every Warli painting, but we are trying to get that miniature part on the whole canvas.
So do you have the rough layout in mind when you start?
Not really, but like when we are painting on a large scale, or if there is some mural or something, then we always exchange thoughts. But when we are working in the studio on a small canvas, we just start with some thought. Tushar start from the left, I start from the right. After lunch, we just shift from different places. That's how we work. So, I mean, it's from last 10 years, it's like it's developed in that way that we know. और बहुत बार लोग हमें पूछते हैं कि आपका कभी झगड़ा नहीं होता कि उसने यहाँ ये पेंट क्यों किया, मुझे ये नहीं करना था. So in that case also कि I don't know how.
Direct painting.
Yeah, it's a direct painting. We don't sketch.
No sketching.
So it's always free.
It's only bamboo sticks, no brushes.
Like mainly for drawing, when we start drawing with the white color, we always use bamboo sticks. But for the filling colors, we also have different like type of bamboo that we make for the filling or for the dots, for the lines. But we also use the brush also.
The Warli community is a single village.
It's not a one village. If you have got Palghar street, it's northern side from Bombay. It's on the Maharashtra and Gujarat border. So you will find small villages of Warli people. But now it's mixed with the different tribes around. We have fisherman community, and we are spread on the Sahyadri ranges. So we have many like mixed cultural, tribal culture around.
And there's been a lot of migration into Mumbai, back into, so it's, and I mean Mumbai is also expanded to in some sense swallow Warli villages. So it's quite the community is quite spread out.
And I'm assuming different parts of the community have their own little stories.
Yeah, of course. Like it's not always about the stories. Sometimes, like bachpan mein, I like swimming a lot, so I used to spend a lot of time on the rivers and on the dams or on the ponds. So मेरे पेरेंट्स हमेशा बोलते थे कि वहाँ पे मत जाना या फिर जंगल में जाना तो वहाँ पे मत जाना. So what is there? So that curiosity. So nowadays, 2 years back we painted a series called Childhood Memories. तो हम लोग उस वक्त के जो थॉट्स थे कि वहाँ पे क्या होगा, इस पानी में जाएंगे तो if there is a big fish which is like killing people or eating people, so we are drawing that kind of elements as well. So हम लोग भी अपने बचपन के स्टोरीज को और इस एलिमेंट्स को पेंटिंग्स में हमेशा लाने की कोशिश करते हैं.
What's next, Mayur? Why don't you share what Tushar and you are working on?
So right now we are working on different projects. One is in the Mumbai. It's on the Sassoon Dock with the Start India Foundation, which we have below the art district. So it's a 9,000 square feet mural. It's I guess one of the biggest mural in Warli that we'll paint. And we have upcoming many news with the India Art Fair, and we are going to have a solo show in India Art Fair as well. Also, we are planning another exhibition in Germany next year, so which is again about the regeneration and reintroducing about Warli painting and Warli culture.
Again, it's
So you are using, usually you use watercolor or other?
Mainly we use watercolor. Nowadays also sometimes we use acrylic. We are also experimenting with rice powder, because rice powder is the main material for Warli painting. But still, it's a bit complicated in terms of sustainability and to keep it for a long time. So we are also experimenting different natural materials that we are getting from around.
Last question, if nobody else has a question.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask, what are the views of the traditional Warli artist on these kind of paintings? And also, if one traditional story you can share around Warli art?
There are many stories in Warli, and one of my favorite is the creation. We had this show in Australia called Asia Pacific Triennale, and we painted very first time one story in 8 canvas. We spent 1.5 years creating that story, and every canvas had a chapter, and in that chapter it started from the space where Mahadev and Ganga, which are the characters who create the earth. So they start planning about how we'll create the earth, how we'll take the help of all other elements, sun and the moon, water, soil. So then they start creating, and then they divide and they went to different directions when they are sowing the seeds of life, and they meet together after a few years. Then earth, there was no depth on the planet. So Mother Earth started feeling the burden on the planet, and she requested Mahadev and Ganga to do something. Then Mahadev created the way from coming from the energy and going back to the energy. It was a depth. But still it kept growing, and then Mother Earth started crying, which is happening right now. So then he said, then I will do the Mahapralay, big disaster on the planet, and I will finish everything. You have 100 years to collect all the seeds, all the pairs, all the animals. It's very similar to Noah's Ark. So that story we also have in Warli painting. Then they give the seed of pumpkin, then they plant it. It becomes huge in 100 years, and they turn it into an ark, a ship, where they collect all the seeds, and that's how, like after 100 years, it started, and they survived inside that pumpkin for 24 years and 24 months. That was a story line. And after that, they touched the ground, and from that onwards, we are living on this planet. So that is something really similar to Noah's Ark. So we also try to explore this kind of similarities in different tribes, because all the elements are coming from the nature: sun, moon, water, air. So we have these basic shapes in every tribal community. You will find a triangle, circle, line, and squares. So that's how we use it as a script, as alphabet to write all stories.
Thank you. Thank you.